Sunday Chef, and today we're going to be showing you how to make these beautiful balsamic vinegar steaks. They are off the hook delicious, full of flavor, and you will love them. Also, they are challenge approved. The way I cook it is with literally no oil, and we're using a low sugar balsamic vinegar, and it turns out absolutely delicious. Okay?
So believe it or not, these are both the same type of meat, top round. This one's cut into a very thin steak. This one is cut into a thick roast. You can cut it up and use it differently and cook it as a steak, a thick steak. But this one's called a London broil, where this one you might find as a top round steak. So I've cut my meat down to smaller portion sizes, just for ease of management and everything like that. This is a smaller, thicker steak. I'm going to be cooking in the actual oven, showing you that technique. It's about 2 inches thick. You see, it doesn't have very much fat on it at all. So I'm not going to be adding any olive oil to get the spices to stick, but I am going to let this rest for about, or I should say not rest, sweat is a better word for it. I'm gonna let this sweat for about 30 minutes just to get the steak down to room temperature, but I don't wanna leave it sitting here on the cutting board exposed to the air and anything that might be flying by. So I'm gonna use my rub on it. So this is my cowboy rub. I think this is the best rub for steak. It's made of 4 ingredients: salt, pepper, coriander, and coffee. I've showed in other videos how to make this. So I'm gonna go ahead and rub these and let them set for 30 minutes to an hour till they get to room temperature. You definitely don't wanna cook your steak unless it is at room temperature, okay? Get this done. Okay, so I've seasoned the meat now. I've rubbed it. You saw I pushed the rub right into the meat. That's to really get the flavor to start soaking into the meat. Now, I'm gonna let this rest for, these guys here, I'm only gonna let them, not rest, but sweat for about 20-30 minutes because they're thin pieces of meat and we can cook them. But this one, I'm gonna let it set for about 45 minutes because I want the internal temperature to come down to, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 degrees. I don't want it to be at, refrigerator temperature, 30, 35 degrees. But because it has this crust on it of spices, it's not going to start to, well, what would you call it? Spoil out on the countertop and have bacteria start forming on it, okay? We'll get to the pan in just a minute. These are 2 of the balsamic vinegars that I like to use, though I have a third one, which is a blackberry balsamic vinegar. It is a little higher in sugar. You can find all sorts of gourmet balsamic vinegars, but to be a true balsamic vinegar, it should be actually a product of Italy in the province of Modena. That's where balsamic vinegar was created. Anyway, I might be wrong on that, but don't call me on it. The reason I like this one is the sugar content. Only 2 grams of sugar per serving on this. So very low sugar that I like to cook with vinegars for that reason, okay?
Okay, well, I've got my pan hot. You can see it's already it's at smoke point, so it's about 350 degrees. I've got it on high today because I'm going to be cooking these and flash cooking them. I'm only using a little bit of a cooking spray. I usually use olive oil, but because I'm on challenge, I'm not using that right now. But I'm using the stainless steel pan for a purpose. I usually use cast iron, but the steak is going to render off its fat into the stainless steel pan, and the pieces of spice that we put on it are also going to stick to the pan, but we don't have to worry about that because we're going to deglaze the pan with the balsamic vinegar. That's the reason I'm using stainless steel, is because I don't want to strip off my my seasoning off of my cast iron, and I want a clean release of the goodness from the meat that's left in the pan. So these are very thin, so they're going to cook very fast. So I got my balsamic vinegar here. I'm gonna use this one today. Now when I put the balsamic vinegar in, the pan is so hot it's going to start to steam up and reduce the balsamic vinegar down. And I'm going to turn the hood on for that. So just be aware that there might be a lot of noise in here, okay? Okay, so my steak is pretty much cooked to where I want it at this point. I'm going to go ahead and flash it with the balsamic vinegar, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to turn the hood on all the way. Okay, so that's, I don't want to get it too much to where it's actually crisping up the balsamic on the surface, but that's pretty much done at this point. I'm going to take it off and I'm going to serve it up. Okay? Hey folks, we're going to be cooking the thicker one now. So to cook a thicker piece of meat, it's really difficult to cook it in your frying pan. You really have to use your oven to kind of get it to the point of doneness enough, and then we're going to bring it up and flash it with the balsamic vinegar. So you can see I'm already at smoke point, which is about 325, 350 degrees, depending on what kind of oil you're using. So my steak, you can see it's very pliable, very malleable. It's been sitting for about 45 minutes with the crust. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it in the pan. We're going to sear the outside, put it in the oven, and then we're going to go ahead and flash it with the balsamic vinegar, okay?
Let's jump back into time. Let's jump back into time.
So it's been about 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and we're going to check the temp, and then we're going to go ahead and flash it, okay? So that's typically what you'd see is a dry piece of meat, and that's not what we want. We want something very moist and very delicious. And so it's sitting close to about 110, 112 degrees, 114 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it. Now meat is typically done at about 135 degrees for medium rare. But remember, we're going to flash it, and we're going to also, I'm going to turn the stove back on here, get it back up to high temp. Okay, I don't want to touch the handle. Remember, it's been in the oven. It's very hot. Okay? So I'm going to flash it and deglaze it, and then we're going to go ahead and put the lid on it, let it rest for about 10 minutes. we're trying to do is we're trying to get the balsamic vinegar to kind of stick to the meat as it's reducing. Okay, and so it's deglazing the pan, and all of that goodness that was on the bottom of the pan is now being transferred into the flavor of the sauce that it's the balsamic vinegar. And it's thickening. The balsamic vinegar is thickening. It's mixing with the fats and everything like that. And the acids and the fats are combining together. Oh, you see that now it's picking up that dark color, and that's what we want. We want that really dark color. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and put this off to the side and turn my stove off. I'm actually gonna cover it and let it set and actually rest at this point for about 10 minutes so that the meat continues to cook and it cools down from the outside to the inside, and the inside will reach its doneness point that I want, which is a medium rare. Okay, I cover it to keep the moisture in. I don't want my meat to dry out on the outside. The balsamic vinegar is thickening, and so as it comes down to room temperature, or not room temperature, but the temperature that we're going to serve it at, it'll thicken also. Okay?
Well, there you have it, folks. Both the thin sliced and also the extra thick sliced top round balsamic vinegar steak. And it is off the hook delicious. You will love this. Wait till you try it.